Hey there, we're Talia and Ophira Edut, identical twins and astrologers. Welcome to AstroTwins Radio, where we bring the stars down to Earth. It's the week of November 11th to 17th. Talia here from the AstroTwins. How is everyone doing out there? The last time we recorded was the day before the election, and I know that we were all throwing a lot of manifestation mojo out there. Apparently not enough for half of the country or more to feel the same way as I did. And many of you did out there. So, wow. Pluto in Capricorn made itself known in its very grand finale, and it's really challenging in some ways to talk about this without being extremely biased for me. My work, besides astrology, has been in women's empowerment, and I'm a never Trump guy. What can I say? I don't think that should come as a shock to anyone. I'm not going to spend the entire podcast talking about the election, but I am going to talk about it a bit. We have to. There are people out there who are like, don't do politics. Astrologers shouldn't do politics. And it's like, are you kidding? Like, this planet matters too. I know we don't have Earth counted on our birth chart, but that's because it's at the center of it. And what happens here is what matters right now. Everything that affects us down here. So whether you're rejoicing or mourning and grieving right now, that's where you are. But we are definitely entering an old era that's also a new era, because things are not what they seem. Now, what the heck happened there? Well, we've been talking about it a lot, and I did do a few Instagram videos. There's 6 of them up that you can go back and watch. I'm not going to go into everything I said on them, but Trump did have the better astrology on election day. He had Jupiter over his sun, exactly over his sun, even though it was retrograde. I mean, that's kind of good for a second term, 20 degrees Gemini. And Kamala had Pluto squaring her sun, which is really difficult. Jupiter over the sun is like, hi, I'm shining good fortune on you. It's one of the luckiest transits you can have. Pluto squaring the sun is like, I'm going to throw some curveballs at you from every angle. Every hidden enemy is going to come for you. So tough moment, tough times for many of us out here. And one of the things that's been particularly annoying to me is how many people who did vote for Trump are coming out and accusing, Harris voters who are rightfully angry and scared of having Trump make good on a lot of it, and JD Vance make good on a lot of their campaign promises, like getting rid of the Department of Education and, further deterioration of reproductive rights. But there's been sort of this get over it, or I've personally been called hateful for being angry. And I just think that's really ironic coming from people who started an insurrection when their candidate lost. So I want to say to you, don't be afraid to be angry and pissed off, and don't let people normalize this. This is absolutely not normal, but it is absolutely what the final throes of Pluto and Capricorn brought us. We've been talking about that a ton on the podcast. Pluto, the Darth Vader of the skies, has been in Capricorn, and this is not the only thing that defines Capricorn, but Capricorn does rule the patriarchy, corporations, economies, governments, and Pluto is kind of the phoenix planet. It tears stuff down, it reshapes it, but it also brings these hidden and sometimes nefarious forces. So it's been in Capricorn since 2008. And when it went into Capricorn, we had a recession. All the banks needed bailing out. We had the mortgage crisis. We also got Obama, our first Black president. So there were a lot of historical things, both meltdowns and, breakthroughs. So now Pluto is actually changing signs. That's something that happens every 12 to 20 years. So Pluto is on the 16-year tour through Capricorn, but it did dart forward into Aquarius a couple times already. That happened once from March 23rd to June 10th in 2023. And then it happened again this year from January 20th until September 1st. It was still retrograde though. It's actually went retrograde back in May, but it was in backing up through Aquarius, which is a very different energy. Aquarius is more scientific, progress-oriented, futuristic, whereas Capricorn is an earth sign that's more traditional, structured. Aquarius is an air sign, although it is a fixed air sign, so it's kind of it's also very formulaic in its own way. Aquarius is kind of this, it's just very eccentric. It's this quirky sign that can be very individualistic, but also very team-oriented and communal, very structured, and then very anarchistic at once. So it's this paradox. It's represented, its glyph is two waves of energy. And, there are kind of two waves to Aquarius. So what is happening is that, I think what Pluto and Aquarius is really doing the way Pluto and Capricorn kind of revolutionized government, sort of, or has brought us Bitcoin and this new economy, now cryptocurrency. Bitcoin just went up to the highest I think it's ever been, 90K today. And today Venus, which rules money, has moved into Capricorn, November 11th to December 7th. So Capricorn, again, being banks and governments. So I guess a coping mechanism would be to buy some crypto or something. I don't know, or like learn about it. Get yourself a Coinbase account, because we are seeing a revolution of banks and money that's been happening, and it's only going to get anything decentralized is very Aquarius, and Pluto does manage our wealth. So Pluto moving into Aquarius, when it began to start to go back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius, we had this real Aquarian disruption with Chat GPT, AI. I mean, there's some pretty amazing things that AI can do. I've chosen to embrace learning about it and using it sparingly, but it's also really wild and insane. We actually have an AI video that we posted that this artist Ari Kushner did, envisioning what would happen if Trump did ayahuasca. He also has one about Elon Musk on his Instagram having an moment of enlightenment, and all these others. It's hilarious, it's spooky, it's creepy, it's insane what AI can do, like capturing the voice. So we're just at the beginning of this. And there's also AGI, which is a more advanced type of AI that Sam Altman is developing. He's a triple Taurus, and he's saying that, that might be available. It's kind of a super AI already in 2025, like 1 to 2 years ahead of time. I think we're going to see a lot of advancements happening with technology. So that's the preview of what's coming next week. Next week on November 19th, Pluto officially parks in Aquarius for 19 years. And that's going to bring a realm shift for every single sign. I see there's astrologers out there saying that, Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, all the fixed signs are going to feel it more than anyone. That's a bunch of clickbait. we're all going to feel this in some way or another in some part of our chart. Aquarians are the ones who are probably going to feel it the most. And it's true that the fixed signs will have oppositions and squares, so it'll maybe be the most jarring and jolting. But for all of us, a Pluto transit is a huge deal because it just doesn't happen often, and it shapes these longer passages. And because it's like the farthest out planet, or dwarf planet, if you want to call it that, it does have this most mysterious effect and the hardest to pin down. So this is the final week of Pluto in Capricorn, and Pluto's return to Capricorn definitely gave Trump that favor. Everyone wanted Daddy, the patriarchy, to come back. Not everyone, not by a long shot, but enough people. But that's not who's coming back. Who's coming back are, and there's no mystery around it. The curtain's been lifted on Elon Musk's involvement. And he is, I would say, the shadow of Pluto and Aquarius. The Pluto, that power of the algorithm, the power of what you can do when you own the digital town square of X and can manipulate what people are able to see. And he's shared disinformation throughout the whole election, and shamelessly so. And now he's been on calls with Trump and Zelensky, and now they're showing he's been on calls with Putin for the last 2 years, but also his Starlink satellites are what actually gave Ukraine the ability to operate their drones, to have a signal to operate. So he's basically controlling these wars with his satellite network. That's some serious Pluto and Aquarius power. And I just think we're going to see a lot more of that. We've got Peter Thiel, who was Musk's PayPal founding bro, and he's the one who made sure that JD Vance got installed as the vice president. So look, this sounds really terrifying and scary, and in a lot of ways it is. I mean, the strings have been pulled for so long, but it's just been happening in secrecy. And it's interesting that it's all kind of coming out now. The thing is, we have to wait and see a little bit of what is a mirage and what isn't. Trump is known for selling you, Taj Mahal, but then you walk in and it's a dingy casino in Atlantic City. So how many of these threats, these fear-mongering threats about mass deportation are just a dingy casino in Atlantic City? I did watch a really interesting video talking about how much it would actually cost to do a mass deportation. And there's no way that the U.S. has the budget for that. But with all these billionaires involved, I don't know. So it's terrifying. It's terrifying if you are somebody who has people in your life or just a conscience that includes caring about immigrants, trans folks, women, LGBTQ community, progress, the climate. The rollbacks and the setbacks left me feeling the way I used to feel. I remember back in the 90s, when I remember I used to try to explain to people why it wasn't bad to call yourself a feminist. And guys used to call us feminazis. That was their favorite word in the 90s. And was like, and here we are again. It feels like we had this amazing summer of Pluto and Aquarius and the feminine phenomenon of Chapel Roan, and then all of a sudden there's a civil war between the trad wives and the childless cat ladies going on keeping us divided and sparring while the patriarchy just takes over again. Now that sounds kind of hopeless, and I actually think it's going to spark an incredible wave of revolution in the opposite direction. We do have to stop and do it in a more mindful way, not a demure way though, but there's energy coming for that. There's energy coming, Saturn, which is the ruler of Capricorn, is ending a retrograde this Friday. So Saturn has been in Pisces since March 7th of 2023. And it's been retrograde since this June 29th. Saturn turns retrograde for 5 months every year. All the outer planets do. It's just their thing. There's no avoiding it. So Saturn will be retrograding. Saturn will be turning direct and then spending 7 months in direct motion. Now, Saturn in Pisces is this weird sort of crossover of things. It's this weird, oxymoron, because Saturn is all about reality and structure and chronological time. And Pisces is about dissolving reality, illusion, and Kairos time or flow state, where we actually lose track of the clock. So we've been getting these reality checks, but also questioning what actually is reality and what isn't, and what do we believe in and what is real. And if everything seems like a giant mind fuck, well, now you know why. And Saturn direct in Pisces, though, is going to allow people to take their compassion and their visions and put some structure behind them. So as hard as that might be right now, as painful as it might feel, and as much as, people on the left may feel like giving up, of course we can't do that because we just can't. That's not why we're here, any of us. And it's our world too. It's a shared world, and it just doesn't feel like that in moments like these. Kind of feels like such a major heartbreaking setback. But we do have a very grounding full moon in Taurus coming on Friday. And that could also bring some surprises, perhaps from the Biden administration. What are they going to do in their last couple months? Biden is going to be the president when Pluto moves back into Aquarius on November 19th. What are he and Harris going to do in their last couple months? We may get some surprises. So the Taurus full moon is going to be conjunct Uranus, which is the changemaker planet, the ruler of Aquarius. So it's almost like this grounded, on the ground, grassroots energy could spring up within 2 weeks. Over the 2 weeks following the full moon, there could be, we are seeing this already, that I think Bitcoin's surge is very much Taurus full moon conjunct Uranus. It's really like, okay, this decentralized banking. So cryptocurrency is on the blockchain. It's not part of the central bank. It's not regulated by the Federal Reserve. Its value is not determined by the bond market and the Federal Reserve. So it really is the Wild West and unregulated frontier of money, or people regulated. So that is what Uranus has actually been in Taurus since May 2018, and it's going to be in there mostly next year. I want to talk about 2025 for a minute, because this is why it's so hard to just say, oh my God, we should spin out into a panic. Because next year, which we're calling, and thank you to everyone who's already bought our 2025 horoscope book. They're on sale now. And if you want them for the holidays, make sure you get your order in, because we're going to have a limited first print run. And then, so if you're thinking of gifting, definitely go grab yours. Our 2025 horoscope book, the theme is the year of the divine pendulum. And we called it that because we are taking this pendulum swing into this new energy and then coming back into this very familiar energy. 3 of the outer planets. Well, first and foremost, every single one of the outer planets is going to be in a new sign at some point next year, either midway through the year or for part of the year. And then Pluto moving to Aquarius, it's basically the end of the year. But next year, Jupiter is going to move from Gemini, where it's been since this last May, into Cancer. So it's going from a weakened place to an exalted, its favorite place. And that's going to be good for women. And then Saturn is one of the planets doing a pendulum swing. So Saturn is going forward in Pisces this Friday, going direct, but it's actually going to move into Aries for a little while next year, just from May 24th until September 1st. And it's giving us a preview of the cycle, a longer cycle that starts in 2026 and goes for another 2 years. So Saturn feels really restricted in Aries. Some of that fiery, warring energy is going to be suppressed, which I think is a good thing. Although Saturn can sort of power up the autocrat too in Aries, but it's going to be there for a few months and then it's going to go back to Pisces. And then Uranus is another one of the pendulum planets. It's been in Taurus since May 2018, well, from July 7th to November 7th in 2025, it swings forward into Gemini, where it hasn't been since the 1940s. Saturn hasn't been in Aries for 30 years, since the late 90s. And then Uranus doing this thing that it did when we were like right in the middle of World War II. So Uranus was in Gemini during World War II, which lasted until 1945 and started in the late 30s. And then the third planet doing a pendulum swing is Neptune, which is leaving its home sign of Pisces, where it's been since 2011, giving us plant medicine, yoga, astrology, all the esoteric that's been, normalized for us now. Thank you, Neptune and Pisces. Is going to go into Aries for the first time since 1862 to 1875 for part of next year, from March 30th until October 22nd. And then it goes back to Pisces till late January. So 2026 is really the year where things change in a big, more solid way. 2025 is a 9 universal year. Numerology goes from 1 to 9. And that's why the divine energy comes in. Also, the north and south nodes next year are moving to Pisces and Virgo. The north node's going to Pisces. So really remembering that we're spiritual beings having a human experience is going to get us through some tough times, because next year is not going to be an easy year. It's the year of the wood snake. So the snake is like Taurus in astrology. So it's about simplifying, grounding. Some belt tightening is going to have to happen for a lot of us. But also this sort of new approach, this new practical approach, and finding magic in the analog places while life becomes increasingly technological. So we're living in this next year is very much a dualistic energy, and learning how to live in these different realms and fields and travel through them is going to be something that we're all going to be learning, for the rest of the decade and beyond. And that sounds like a lot to take in. And that's why we need to make sure we're tending to our bodies, our spirituality, and just our nervous system altogether, and not try to learn it all and take it all in at once. It's a lot, right? But this week, you may want to kind of turn down your news feed a bit and be very gentle with yourself, because with Pluto and its last hurrah in Capricorn and Venus with it too, there's going to be a lot of gloating men, gloating patriarchs, and people trying to normalize and justify their decision to install Trump back into office. And if you're not someone who wanted that, that's going to be painful and hard, and that's okay, you know? If people try to tell you you're being too sensitive or hateful, I'm sorry, Detroiters have a favorite expression, and it's bitch please. And bitch please, you started an insurrection, will suffice if you feel the need to say that. I don't know. I'm just trying to help you out here. People who are worried about me and Ophi having, nasty comments. Don't worry about us. We were built for this. We're used to it. We've worked in feminist media, women's media since the dawn of our careers in the 90s, and opposition is to be expected. It comes up. It's just, we grew up in the Midwest in pre-internet times, and we're kind of used to it. With an immigrant dad who had a strong accent, and not a lot of people who had similar background to us. And you know what? It built a resilience that I feel proud of. And I think we're all going to have to develop some greater resilience. And Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries is a time to... And it's not a resilience that's a rigidity at all. It's about acceptance, curiosity. Like, okay, well, I wonder, who hurt you? Like literally, or why do you feel that way? What makes you think that? Learning to ask questions of people who come at you with guns blazing conversationally can be disarming in its own way, and maybe even bridge the divide in some ways, if that's possible. And it's not necessary either. It's okay for us to not agree. It's okay to keep on taking a stand for things. I am someone who personally knows and understands that if you want a different kind of world than the one you're in, you probably won't get immediate agreement for that. And not to expect it, but to not give up on it, and to take time to feel your feelings. This Taurus full moon and Saturn in Pisces is, going direct, is also about the importance of self-care and nurturing, and taking that time to grieve, to comfort yourself, to gather with supportive people who understand where you are coming from and how you're feeling. And when Pluto goes into Aquarius, that collective communal energy is only going to get stronger for all of us. We just have no idea. A Pluto transit is like, there's a whole new world and energy coming our way. And the unknown can be scary, but the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, 1778 to 1798, was at the end of the American Revolution. And the last time Neptune was in Aries the last time Neptune was exactly where it is now, between Pisces and Aries, was at the, right when the Civil War was starting, but the Civil War ended in 1865. So 3 years into Neptune in Aries, which was 15 years long. And then we got abolition, and a lot of positive changes came. So sometimes things do have to go through these waves like this. And I know that for me, I'm choosing to have it steel my resolve even further to create a world that is Aquarian, that is 11/11. Today is 11/11 as I'm recording this. And I'll tell a little story about that number and how it has always been so meaningful to me. I even have it tattooed on my arm in script. It's the very first tattoo I ever got. 11/11, and I know you guys probably have 11/11 angel number stories. I started seeing 11/11 back a few months before September 11th. It was like, and Ophi did too. All of a sudden it was like the microwave would be at 11 minutes 11 seconds, or 1 minute 11 seconds, or look at the clock and sort of just see it. And it was just so bizarre how it kept showing up over and over again. And to the point where I went on my Alta Vista browser, because I think there was like Yahoo, and maybe there was a Yahoo, I didn't even know, but I put in 11/11 and found this website called Solara. And this Solara group apparently thought there are 11 gates between, this plane and what we now call the 5D world. And that they were actually going around and meeting in different places to open the gates. And one of those, they talked about this Mayan calendar that was coming to an end. This was in 2001. And I remember telling my friends about the Mayan calendar, and they're like, what the hell are you talking about, Tali? You're crazy. But I remember learning about these Mayan pyramids in a place called Tulum, but there was no road to it, and you could only get there by little prop plane, which I'm terrified of, so that wasn't happening. Fast forward to 2008, and I go to Burning Man, and I create a camp called Mothership 11/11. And there I meet my husband, Corey. He came with a group from Seattle, and I came from New York, and it was like, zing. And that was another 11/11 moment. And when it was time to go on our honeymoon, I was like, I wonder what this Tulum place is about. I'm just going to look it up. And a road had just been built. So that was my very first trip to Tulum. And it's a very different place now than it was then, back in 2009. But the 11/11 has followed me. Our first astrology job at Teen People magazine was at 111 51st Street. And then we had Lifetime at 1111 8th Avenue. It's just followed us all throughout. So it's always been a beacon for me. It just shows up. I just found out that today is Jane Pratt's birthday from the legendary Sassy magazine. And that's how we got our whole publishing start. When I was 17, Sassy had a reader-produced issue contest, and they let the readers replace, if you had a winning submission, you got to come and replace the staff. And I actually won it. That was my first trip to New York. I got to come and replace Neil, the art director, and put together an issue of Sassy. I had no idea. I knew Jane was a Scorpio, but I did not know she was an 11/11 Scorpio. So why am I telling you this? Well, today is a day where I want you to make a wish, or this week, because you may not hear this on 11/11. You may hear it on 11/12, but this is a week. This is the week of 11/11, and an important time to visualize your highest self, your highest vision for the world, to think about how you want things to go, if you could be the ultimate idealist. And 11/11 is about oneness. That's what I've learned. And it's a light worker number. And light workers have all kinds of definitions now. But when I first heard the term and I saw the ones, it's like, to me, it was always about oneness consciousness, this world where gender and race and all these divisions, these artificial divisions between us, can dissolve. I mean, sure, you can identify with your culture and your gender as, or whatever gender you want to. There's, but to see it as a division rather than a celebration of our differences is where we go south. Even as an identical twin, no two souls are alike. Me and Ophi share DNA, but we're not the same person. So, you can get as granular as you want, and that's the world that I've always wanted to live in. And I'm sending out a wish for that world to continue, that Aquarian vision, that age of Aquarius vision where, we get to be individuals within the collective. That's what makes Aquarius special. So my wish is for that world to continue to blossom and, not be lost in this red wave that's scared of differences, that's scared that, me being different than you threatens your individuality and your autonomy. Well, it doesn't. So that's what I'll leave us with today. Go make a wish, and I wish you a week of inner peace and the space to feel anything you damn well please. I'll be back next week with more. Love you guys so much. As always, thanks for listening. You can discover more of your star power at astrocell.com, and be sure to follow us on social at AstroTwins. Join us next time for more cosmic fun.